Residents of Lehae in the south of Johannesburg who had constructed their residences on land bought from unauthorized sources witnessed the demolition of their homes last week. Excavators dismantled about 20 houses located on municipal land. Now, the brick structures were allegedly built on land that was sold unlawfully without the necessary consent from the City Council. For more on this, we are joined by Xolani Fihla, who's the spokesperson for the Johannesburg Metro Police Department. Xolani, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. Firstly, can you provide a detailed overview of this recent demolition operation in Lehae? What were the key factors that led to this action?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We do know that the city is facing a big scourge of illegal land occupation or land invasion, where people choose to take land which does not belong to them and build structures. So the city has a comprehensive program with dealing with this, and especially through the Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department. And this is done through monitoring, it's done through evictions, and also a collaboration with other law enforcement agencies. But we also collaborate with service providers as private security when it comes to the demolition of illegal structures. When it comes to the monitoring, we work on complaints and also just monitoring the hotspots within the city. You know, the biggest hotspots are in the south of Johannesburg and also in the north-like areas of Ruby Ridge. And when we do monitor, then we do call service providers. We start demolishing these unoccupied structures. Then when it comes to evictions, that's when people have fully occupied the structures, and then the city needs a court order for them to evict the people who have illegally invaded this land. And then with collaboration, as you did speak about unauthorized people selling this land, we work closely with the South African Police Services, who have the capacity of investigating criminal cases and syndicates, and who uncover people who unlawfully sell land within the city of Johannesburg.
But Xolani, how does the JMPD then navigate, call it the legal complexities of demolishing structures which are built on illegally sold land, especially when the landowners might have been misled by unauthorized sellers?
No, definitely. How the JMPD operates, as I did say, is through monitoring and evictions with the city. But it is important to note that we are following the laws of the country. There is an act called the PI Act. It's the Protection Against Illegal Evictions Act. So once we do monitor and we find that structures are unoccupied, then we can legally demolish them without any court orders. But if the structure is then fully occupied, then the city needs to go to the court, where a court order is given for the city to either demolish or find alternative accommodation for the people who have invaded the land.
So many of these families might find themselves in a situation where they have no place to go now. What steps is the JMPD taking to address the impact on residents who were affected by these demolitions, particularly those who were unaware that their land purchases were illegal?
No, definitely, especially for the ones who aren't aware of that, then they're unsuspecting victims, and it becomes difficult for them. Unfortunately, the JMPD deals with law enforcement regarding this issue, but I think departments like the Human Settlements Department then needs to come in and look on how they can assist some of these people. With the particular area in Lehae, we do know that the city had planned for housing development in that area. And if you can see, there's also foundations that have been built by the city, and people who claim that unauthorized people actually sold this land to them, then build on these structures. And unfortunately, with what we do, then we have to demolish the structures. But it is really, really saddening, and especially for unsuspecting victims.
With fear of repetition, Xolani, I want to go back to crystallize the issue you touched on. Can you elaborate on the JMPD strategy for really monitoring and preventing these illegal land occupations? And maybe let's go back to the methods that are being employed to really detect, but also address these issues before they even escalate.
No, definitely. What we do see is there's a lot of land which hasn't been used within the city of Johannesburg, but actually some of this land has planned developments by either the city or the province as well. And also some of this land is privately owned. But as the JMPD, then as I did say that when we do our monitoring, but also work through complaints received from members of the public, when we do find these structures, if they are unoccupied, then we will demolish them immediately. If they're not, if they are occupied, then we have to follow the legal processes. But we do work with service providers like the Red Ants and other private security companies when it comes to the demolition of these structures. I can just say that just last week on the 9th of August, on Women's Day, there was a huge operation that happened along Golden Highway towards Orange Farm in the south of Johannesburg, where plus minus 1,200 illegal structures which were not occupied were demolished. So the city is taking a very strong stance against illegal invasion of land within our jurisdictions.
Now, in the same breath, what initiatives are being put in place to really educate residents about the risks of purchasing this land from unauthorized sellers? And how does the city then plan to improve awareness and prevent future illegal land transactions?
No, that's actually true. I think education is most important, especially for unsuspecting victims. We do find that most of these operations that we go to, and especially with brick and mortar structures, people have bought this land from scrupulous individuals. And it's important that when you are in a process of buying land, and especially in those type of areas, follow the proper processes. There's departments within the city of Johannesburg, like the Human Settlements Departments, and also the city's Johannesburg Property Agency. Go to those departments and find out what's actually happening with the land, and then they'll give you a proper and detailed information of what's happening. And if there is any development that's happening there, then they'll also lead you to the proper processes that you need to follow. It is important that if some individual comes to you and approaches you and says you want to buy land, you have to think about that twice and make sure that it is done in a legal manner to avoid buildings or structures being demolished, because I know that people pay a lot for these bricks, for the cement, and also putting the roof on these structures. And then us as law enforcement, we do come and then we demolish them. And unfortunately, we do it within the prescripts of the law.
Xolani, safe to say that the operations have faced significant resistance from the affected residents. What are the main challenges that JMPD encounters during such operations? And how are these challenges even being addressed?
Yes, no, we do get a lot of resistance from most of these operations, and that's why we take necessary action that we confront the resistance. But firstly, it's done through a de-escalating of the situation. There'll be engagements with whoever who has occupied the land and inform them of the legal processes that the officers are going to take. But at most times, you do find that the resistance does become volatile, and then we have our public order policing units who are part of these operations to make sure that they do quell any volatile situations that we come across.
But how can residents also verify, call it the legitimacy of land sellers, to avoid purchasing illegally sold land? Are there specific resources or even processes that the city does recommend for verifying land transactions?
With that, unfortunately, as law enforcement, it is out of my scope. But what I do advise members of public is that we do have many departments within the city. Firstly, the Department of Human Settlements, which is the perfect department that you need to contact and find out if this specific land that you want to build on is actually owned by either the city, the province, or a private owner. But at most times, we do know that people do invade this land illegally, knowing the consequences of that, but they go ahead. And then at other times, then you find unsuspecting victims who have bought the land from these individuals.
And looking ahead, Xolani, what are the JMPD's long-term strategies for really tackling the issue of, call it illegal land occupation? Not sure if this is even your jurisdiction, but also ensuring sustainable land management in Johannesburg?
Yes, I think working closely with the community, it goes back to education and awareness campaigns as well. If the communities do know and they're updated with the laws within the city of Johannesburg and the laws of the country, but also making sure that they are fully aware of whatever processes that they need to take in purchasing land, then they need to follow those processes. As a legal owner of land, you know that there has to be transfers with lawyers and also getting your title deed and those type of issues. So it is important that you do follow the proper processes to avoid your structures being demolished by the JMPD.
Xolani Fihla, thank you so much for your time. He's the JMPD spokesperson, providing comprehensive insights into the JMPD's recent actions, but also speaking to the strategies concerning illegal land occupation, and this time seeing tensions play out in the Lehae area, where residents there also showed some resistance to the police's action.